Hello, everybody. Thank you once again for tuning in to the EITR Elephant in the Room podcast. It's been a while. We're sorry. We're back at it, though. And today, we have a very, very special guest. Jalen, would you mind introducing yourself, sir?
Yeah, what's up, guys? Jalen Noble here, joining the podcast for the first time. Heard a lot about this. Introduced to this podcast through Jonathan. We go way back, so definitely wanted to take the time. Important topics to talk about today, mainly around mental health and something near and dear to my heart. So no better place to be than this podcast to talk about it. Thank
you, sir. We needed some more light skin balance. This is with the representation that matters. But everyone else want to introduce yourselves as well. We haven't been on in a long time. I fucking forgot what we sound like.
Bassy bass.
You know what I'm saying? Yours truly, Mr. Morris Chestnut with a beard.
It's a wrap.
Hey, yo, Tracy, man. Hey, yo, Tracy. We still gonna be calling the court, right?
Nah, man. I'm just glad to be back on the podcast with the guys and definitely talk about some topics that need to be talking about. So
go ahead, B. Don't be shy.
Hey, it's your boy Brendan, man. But my friends call me B. We're back. The Mandem are back. You got me, fam. Let's go.
Jonathan Morris, aka your realtor's favorite lender, aka Mr. PJ. Back on the podcast yet again. Happy to be back with the boys. Happy to have my boy Jalen on. Talking about a very important topic today.
Hell yeah. Very important topic. Jalen, you mentioned there's a story about another podcast I believe that you wanted to talk about. You want to get into it, sir?
Yeah, it's kind of what sparked this whole conversation, which led us to this point. I think a lot of us are familiar with the Kanye documentary coming out recently, but more importantly, something incredibly recent, a Michael Beasley podcast where he jumped on. And for those who aren't familiar with Michael Beasley, he was a professional basketball player. Has been in the league recently, but he's gone through his dark places, I believe is the best way to put it. Not shy from headlines around these topics, but he was on a podcast a few days ago and he got into some deep stuff around mental health and his struggle with it. And just a grown ass man with kids and, speaking to other grown men talking about it. It just, I think, hit the nail on the head for where we are as a society and the stigmas associated with mental health and kind of growing and developing as men with this idea that you can't be vulnerable, you can't talk about your mental health. And it leads people to a place like this where they feel alone and trapped and pushing 30, 40 years old and, in a dark place. And it's just, I truly am an advocate for mental health. And that's kind of, again, like I said, why I wanted to jump on here and talk about this, because we got 5 grown men on this call right now to, shed some light on their previous experiences and their thoughts overall on mental health and men's mental health specifically. So that kind of just paints a picture of what brought me here, what brought us together to put our minds together. But that Michael Beasley conversation definitely hit home and pulled on some heartstrings for me because of my own personal connections to my mental health and the struggles I've been through and wanted to share. And for anyone else out there who's going through some shit, just know that we're not alone, that you're not alone. And I hope this conversation today can help provide some insight into just that and where we can really kind of make a difference for everyone out there in mental health.
Nice. We getting deep today, y'all. We are unpacking.
Yeah, no surface level stuff today.
No surface level stuff. So like Jalen, when you were listening to that, like what kinds of things really resonated with you? Like you said that a lot of things Michael B. I'm sorry, I want to say Michael B. Jordan, but it's not Michael Jordan. It's Michael Beasley. Okay.
Yeah, Michael Beasley.
What kind of things was he saying that really resonated with you?
Yeah. So he's got kids. I don't believe he's married. I didn't catch that if he is. But he's been someone that I've followed since he was drafted. I think I was old enough to be cognizant or aware of who he was when he was drafted 2nd overall, all that good stuff. And he, again, wasn't shy of headlines for failed drug tests, being a cancer for teams is what they painted him as. And he was always kind of painted as a bad guy. And from my view, throughout this entire process and knowing who he was, I kind of fell into that where I followed the media's pursuit of Michael Beasley, where he was a bad guy, he was a cancer. But what stuck out to me in this conversation was he got real. He said, people don't know what's going on behind the camera, and they let the media and they let other people create assumptions about this person, that he's this bad person, without actually taking the time to understand if they're okay, understand what they're actually going through. And that stuck out to me because I've been on that side, whether it be my time on Love Island, whether it be some things that we could talk about later, but it's a real stigma in this world to allow other people to speak for you and speak for your mental health and your place without being able to speak for yourself. And sometimes people aren't comfortable, so you allow these narratives to run. But on the podcast specifically, he was open. He was crying on the podcast. He was talking about how he felt alone, how he's had friends that grew up with him that once he made it big and started making all these millions, and they stole from him. They didn't really give him the support he needed. They kind of just always had their hand out wanting
just
more.
Took out from him,
just kept taking without actually being there for him. And I think that a lot of us can relate to that, myself specifically, with failed friendships of my past, where a lot of people just have their hand out, wanted to take, and they lack empathy to actually be there and create a support system, which men need, because you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. And I think as a successful Black man and a successful NBA player, you're supposed to put on for your community, put on for your friends and family, because you have access and resources and carry this weight and burden of the world on your shoulders. And you have all these friends asking for handouts, family asking for handouts, and you can't say no. It's really hard to say no and create that barrier for you and for your own mental health. So all that, just going through the conversation that he was having, just really stuck out to me, because not on that grand of a level where the resources and being a number 2 overall pick, but just with those kind of close friend circles, and specifically feeling like you can't talk to anybody about it. You can't open yourself up. You can't just express yourself and ask for help. I think that's what stuck out to me, and just seeing where he's at now. And it's never too late, but it's his life would be very different if he would have actually, stuck his hand up years ago and said, I need help. So that's what stood out to me. And that's why I got so jazzed up about it, because I feel like a lot of us can relate to that. And a lot of people out there listening can as well.
I also want to add to that what you said about how people can speak for you, because sometimes people think that perception is everything, but you have to understand that, like, how you perceive me has nothing to do with me.
Correct.
I know who I am at the end of the day. I think Michael Beasley kind of lost sight of who he was because of the fame, the money, the girls, the people asking for handouts. And I kind of feel like if we don't really talk about like the stigma of just like the fame, about like people like just acting as if you're a god, or acting as if like, you're the biggest thing since sliced bread. And then when you lose it all, it's like you ask yourself, like, who am I?
You know what it is, B? I feel like a lot of people can be like I think it's called like class reductionist, I think, where they feel like if someone is in a position of fame or if they have fortune, that like none of their other problems like
matter
really
anymore.
matter. They'll be like, oh, okay, like you lost someone in your life. Okay, but you're rich though. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you contracted herpes in Guatemala, but you rich though. You know what I mean? And it's like, why don't you? I'm serious though. It's like, why don't people like realize that even Michael Beasley, 2nd overall, he can still have issues. I mean, he can still have problems, things he's going.
Bro, it's being under that constant microscope every day, and it's almost like a ton of athletes will say this. It's almost like they feel like they're not human anymore. They're almost attractions at a zoo. So you see it all the time with fans acting out at games, saying whatever they want. Like, for a fact, if you saw Michael Beasley in a back alley late night, you're not saying any of the things that you're saying, but you see them almost as like this person who's no longer a human. They're on this higher pedestal, like you were saying, Josh, that, they got the money, so what do they care about what I'm saying? But I think we're taking that humanity out of those people, and that's also dangerous, because then they get to this point where they're 40, 50, 60 years old. They don't have that same identity of being that person, because they're all used to being that alpha male. And when that's gone, this is when people start taking their lives. And that's when everyone's like, oh man, like we loved him. Like, that was one of my favorite people. But where were you?
Where were you at?
I wish we
were
would have
breaking down.
I wish we would have saw the signs earlier. It's like, no, motherfucker, the signs were there the entire time. You
weren't paying attention.
Lacked the empathy to actually want to pay attention and want to reach out and want to be a support system. Mm-hmm. I mean, you translate from NBA to NFL, especially with CTE and all these unfortunate, news releases that we see about
Junior Seau.
NFL icons, Junior Seau, things that you never would have guessed, but they go through things. And again, I think it's just the way that we idolize these people, and they're always under a microscope. But if they were to, and again, the stigma of men asking for help has always been seen as a weakness. And you have these uber athletes, these alpha males, these people who are put on this ultimate pedestal, and to them, they probably really feel the weight of, I can't say I'm hurting. I can't say that I need help because it's viewed as a weakness by society. And so by a product of that, people are going to look at me differently. So they have to hold all that in. They can't ask for help. And I think that's again, just an emphasized stigma with professional athletes and just men and people of that level of success and fame, or rather virality, or just being who they are and idolizing them.
I also like what
Jalen,
you said. My fault. My fault. Go now, guys.
I was going to say to something that be what you said and what Jalen said. I think it's tougher for professional athletes because what I took from Michael Beasley was you have your support system, right? Like, but I think what broke the camel's back from him, he goes to those people to have those conversations when he is hurting. But then when you find out, those are the same people, like Buddy said, his mom stealing from him, his buddy stealing from him, like the people that are in his circle that you go into and have these conversations with, you pull your walls up and you don't have those conversations. Because I'm looking at it like, okay, if you're stealing from me, who says that the next conversation I have with you is not going to go to TMZ, or you know what I'm saying? Like, absolutely. And then you go to that, and you go to that point. Gosh. Yeah, you go to that point where you can't really have conversations and you can't really open up about what you're going through. I think that's what really breaks the camel's back with a lot of these professional athletes that go to that point. Like, I mean, for instance, you got to look at AD. You know what I'm saying? Like, signs were there with Buddy. Nobody paid attention to it. Like, we can go to the point where Kanye, signs were there with Buddy. Nobody really paid attention to it. It falls into the point what Jalen said and what Josh said, that like you got bread, so you'll be all right. Like, I think that's where a lot of us miss the 8 ball at with a lot of these professional athletes and just celebrities in general that kind of go through that whole mental healthness stage.
It's because we only want one thing from them. So like that's the problem. AB still balling his ass off, so no one really cared. Like, oh, we'll keep giving him contracts. Kanye still making great music. So like, yeah, he's a little crazy off of everybody else's standard. So we'll just keep letting it slide. And those are types of things where you hit that slippery slope because, like you said, we are lacking that empathy. We don't actually care about them as a human being because the majority of us don't really know them. So, and that's where it gets scary because, like I said, these people are going to keep continuing to do what they do. And then eventually they're going to take their own lives. And then everyone's going to be like, well, I love them so much, but you didn't because you would have gotten in there earlier.
I think also too, it's just a lot of these stories are like really sad, bro. Like I remember hearing so many things about Michael Beasley, bro, like failed drug tests, like Jalen said, or coming late to practice, or just coming high, drunk. Like, bro, if someone's doing that and they're that rich and that popular, it's either two things. One, they're like showing you that they're breaking down, but like they're coping through drugs and alcohol. Number two, they just think that they're the hottest shit and I can play drunk or high. It doesn't matter. I'm going to drop 50. But in this case, for Michael Beasley,
he would drop 50.
Yeah, and he's like, bro,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Buddy is nice at hoop, bro. There's a reason why Bob Huggins, before he got kicked out of UC, was recruiting him so hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. There's a reason for all that. But it's like what they said in what Mitch said in what's the movie?
Money Making Mitch?
No, Money Making, that's not the movie, but
I
love the game. Paid in full.
Yeah.
He said, I love the game, I love the hustle, but when I leave the game, the fans still gonna love me. It's like a lot of these guys, bro, that I idolize watching basketball and football, I will always have love for these guys because they brought joy to my house. They brought joy between me and my friends. Like, bro, I will always love, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow for what they did for the city, bro. Like, I will never forget what they did and the excitement that they brought to Cincinnati. But for some people, it's like, what have you done for me lately? It's like, if you're not continuously giving me good music like Kanye West, what do I need you for? If you're not continuously, in TMZ or making an issue, what do I need you for? Because like this whole entertainment shit, you're right. They are like animals, bro. Like there's just no respect. Like there's no reason why Nurkic from the Portland Trailblazers should be walking over to a fan, grab his phone, throw it, and be ready to sock him because he wanted to do a slick comment. Well, when Russell Westbrook, he's not having the best season right now. But I remember like the Utah Jazz, they got to do something about their fans because they out here calling black men boy and doing all this extra shit like on the sidelines and stuff like that. Like That stuff has to stop, bro.
Like, what year is it?
Yeah.
Right.
And it just comes out at a respect level, bro. I know for a damn fact you're not talking to LeBron James the way you're talking to him when he's on the basketball court.
And
like,
some of these cats clap back, like KD, and they have all these mic'd up things.
KD don't care.
Clap.
Shut
Hey,
the
clap.
hell up.
Hey,
Like,
find me
shut the fuck up and sit down.
He don't care.
KD got a burner account for a reason, bro. He don't care.
And I like that. I like that approach because, like, and I think that's like the conundrum of the NBA and like of these spectator sports is you have this. It almost feels like when you're watching them through a TV, they don't look like real people. You don't think they're real, but until you get there, you have like this layer of protection as fans that you could say whatever you want to Buddy, and they're not going to say anything because they have to keep this composure. They have to keep their mind on the game. But I feel like athletes have the ability and should always have the ability to stand up for themselves. Like you see more and more as a recent.
100%.
Like I love Katie's approach to sit there and clap back, or Westbrook going up to people, saying don't disrespect my name. And it's hard because that's one out of 80,000 people there watching. So it's hard to single people out, but I appreciate KD for these reasons. Cause like, I love hearing that he's clapping back and telling Cass to shut the fuck up and sit down. And like, it needs to be a two-way street because it's not healthy for them to always constantly be
100%. And they're all humans. Like we look at it as, since they making 200 mil, we got to hold them to a higher standard that if somebody says something to you, can't say something back. Like, bro,
right.
If I'm playing rec league basketball, somebody call me something crazy, I'm snapping.
I'm snapping.
Yeah, bro, that's what I'm saying. You can't you can't be out here calling people boy. Like you say, I love when I see them mic'd up little KD segments. Bro, a little 35 racks ain't gonna hurt his pockets. He rather say what he gotta say.
Team pays for it anyway.
And I hate that they get fined for that because like it's like you can't just consistently
what do you want me to do?
this.
Like you want me to let this you want me to let him keep calling me boy and the N-word and just talking crazy about my wife. Like, bro, people are talking about their wives.
Bro,
Westbrook
don't even have his family come to the games no more, bro. Like, imagine, like, I understand he's playing bad. Yes, his family don't even come to the games, bro. His family does not come to the games.
What?
He literally said that in an interview. He does not feel safe that his family's going to come to the game. So imagine you got that on your head when you playing a basketball game. You playing bad already. Your fam can't be there, and you just like every little word.
Hey, Base,
you know what I'm saying? He's going to hear it.
Base, let me ask you this question: do you feel bad for Baker Mayfield?
Well, okay.
You coming to me when I've been screaming get Baker out the door.
This is
that energy switch up though.
This is a conversation about black men's mental health. Okay, Baker. That's next episode.
I mean, I'm not gonna say. I'll say to your point, Brendan. The stuff like on the field, stuff that he's getting like from media, stuff like that. Like I think it could be said better. Like trust me, I mean I do be tweeting stuff, but I don't be on some disrespectful. I'll be like, yeah, dude's a bum, stuff like that. Like, but his mental health, his mental health got to be down, bro. Like it has to be,
bro. Like you said, we're all human, no matter what. Like I used to swear I want to be famous so bad. I swear on everything.
Now, I'm taking rich over famous every day.
Now that I'm watching, bro, like if you think about it, no matter what you do on this level, someone's breaking down, analyzing your game. You can't have a bad night. Like Russell Westbrook is definitely one of the best athletes of all time, but like they just threw his whole career out the window for this season.
He wasn't an MVP, like he didn't average a triple double.
And that's why he's like, yo, put some respect on my name. Like I understand I'm playing bad, but like it's the way y'all talking.
Kind of. I was gonna say to that Batman quote. What did Bane say? He said, Batman said, you live long enough as a hero to see yourself become the villain.
Facts.
And that couldn't be more true with like professional athletes. Or I think that's a quote, something like that. But
that's facts.
Yeah, like it's you're idolizing again to the Westbrook situation. You're dropping triple doubles for 3 straight seasons, and yet your career is kind of going off it just goes off the deep end. And now your son, and another quote that I saw that Westbrook was talking about, his son is questioning his dad, like, why do people not call us Westbrook? Why are they calling you Westbrook? And his son's like 8, 9, 10 years old. And you think about the development of that, especially as a man, if someone's tarnishing your name to a point where your son is at the brunt end of that, where they're sitting there going, well, why are they calling you Westbrook? Well, Westbrooks. And he talked about that, and I was like, that hit home for me because I was like, that's fucked up. Like that should not be something a narrative, but where your child comes home, and I'm sure that doesn't sit well with Russell and what he has to deal with, especially in LA, like of all places. But having his son have to go through that and endure that, and like people just throw dirt on your name, it just, I don't know, it sticks with me when I see it. I feel bad for Buddy. to have to go through this, because I mean, he truly, nobody deserved this. But this just goes back into the whole point of men's mental health and how the impact of it can really help, or can really deteriorate over time without vocalizing, these things and speaking up. And I'm glad a lot of athletes are recently, but I still think a general thing that no one talks about.
Like, speaking of that, because I think you kind of touched on it, Jalen, and Brendan, you brought it up earlier about like how people cope with these sort of stresses. So like in you guys' life, like how do y'all cope with like the stresses of life? Because I feel like, especially as like Black men in America, a lot of times, I feel like the way that we express the fact that we are struggling, the way that we do express the fact that we are going through some things, we kind of do it in kind of low key ways, right? Because there's a lot of factors that go into it. First off, you feel like people don't care. You feel like you have to be tough for everybody around you. But like in your personal lives, like how do you guys express when you're frustrated?
I used to do it in an unhealthy way, which meant, and I'm not about y'all, but whenever I got my heart broken or I went through some tough shit, I'd go to the gym. I'd be like, I need to go work this out. I'm gonna go in demon mode. I'm gonna go into the attic. Like Future says, right? I'm gonna go work this out because I'm gonna make them pay for breaking my heart, for all these things that, to me, as I look back and reflect on it, it wasn't healthy because I was doing it for someone else's satisfaction.
Them, not you.
I was doing it for them. But the healthy way I cope now is I go to therapy. I meditate. I talk to people. I express being vulnerable. I express that, hey, I'm struggling with my mental health, and I'm not sure when anyone asks me like, how you doing, man? The average answer in this world is like, I'm good. Right? I'm sure you probably get asked that once a week and you're like, oh, I'm good. Everything's good. I will straight up tell people close to me like, oh, I'm okay. Like, could be a better, I'm struggling a little bit today, but we're here working through it. I'd rather be vulnerable and open with people. And I think that's the healthier way for me to cope, because I don't believe in suppressing my emotions any longer. And especially going to therapy. I go every other week and I talk to my therapist about everything under the sun. And it has been the most healing journey I have ever been on as a man, as a Black man, especially, that I can express these frustrations. I can express these opportunities. I can express whatever comes to mind that could potentially impact my mental health, because at the end of the day, my mental health is 100 times more important than any other health I have, my physical health, all of it. If my mental health is shit, I can't do shit. So the healthy ways I cope.
That boy's DMs about to snap. Oh, you meditate? You go to therapy? Them DMs about to snap. The fact that you realize that, and you can realize, like, because I can't say I've been to that point that I've gotten to the point like you have. You've realized what you're doing was unhealthy, and you coped it out. I'm like the type, I'm not gonna speak on it, and it's just gonna be one thing that just sets me off, and it's just gonna just be everything. I mean, I'll be talking from things that happened 3 months ago at that point. Like, I just hold it in to the point. So I think for you to be able to realize where you need to be better at, and the fact that you go every week, I mean, bro, you probably living the best life there possibly can be. You feel me?
I'll tell you what, man, you sit there in therapy and I'm sure we've all had our fair share of traumas. And I think trauma can be subjective, but most of the time it's objective, right? Like abuse and certain things and parenting styles, like those are pretty impactful on a child. But you think about, I mean, I was an athlete my entire life, and I had a helicopter dad who was always over you, wanting you to, be the best version of themselves, living vicariously through you, all that stuff. So all these things, these traumas that develop, heartbreaks as a kid, I'd bury that shit deep. I would never address it. And I think as you develop, and things I talk with my therapist, like, I have anxieties today, I have depression some days, and, we dig to the root of it. We find the cause. Like, why do you have anxiety when you go to, out into the world or put yourself in front of the world on national TV? What are these anxieties rooted in? When you go on dates, when you talk to women, why aren't you open? All these things that open up, I think, Pandora's box from traumas from a previous life that I can find a root of. And it just brings a lot more understanding, and me being able to articulate my emotions better than I ever have. So to your point, I've never been more content with my emotional and mental state. And I feel like I'm a lot more control over my own emotions, which leads to reduced anxieties, reduced lack of sleep, better overall health. Just waking up with a smile. I think it's just been so healing for me to be open with somebody, especially a therapist, because these motherfuckers are professionally trained to ask you tough questions, to dig to the root of all these things that plague you, but to also help you heal and progressively reach your limit as a human mentally. So I raised my hand like 6 months ago, I want to say, got out of a relationship, changed jobs. And in the past, I would have been in the gym for 3 hours a day, just working that shit out because I didn't know what else to do, burying it deeper, being confused. But now it's like I know how to maneuver and manage with my emotions in a healthy way. So that's a long-winded answer, but that's how I cope. And I would highly recommend it to anyone listening, especially men, Black men, anybody really. Therapy is the single greatest investment I've made in myself, and I would highly recommend it for anyone. If it just be, once a month, once every 2 months, it's incredibly healing to be vulnerable.
Yeah, no, you harped on something that I think is super important, man, which is being being internally motivated, right? Like there's a difference between going to the gym because you want to versus because you were frustrated about something, or and that bleeds into a lot of activities, like whether it's drinking or just whatever, you know what I mean? Like, John, have you ever been in a situation where like you've felt like you were externally motivated to do something and it just kind of had a negative impact on the mental?
Yeah, bro. I mean, I would chime in. I had to thank my grandma, honestly, because she recognized me not having both my parents in my life was going to cause some issues. So I've been going to therapy since I was 7, but there was no benefit to me. Like I didn't feel it when I was 7 years old. I kind of was just in there and I would talk about things and I would cry, but I didn't really know what was going on. And I would always swear to myself that like my parents not being in my life was not a big deal. It wasn't an issue. I didn't care. But it starts to, what will happen when you don't take care of those things is they will rear their heads in relationships that you have later on in your life. So yes, I have for the majority of my life been externally motivated. If someone told me I couldn't do something, if a girl broke my heart, I would be right there with Jalen. Like me and Jalen went through some times where like, I'm like, yo, I don't even know what to do. Like just because a girl broke my heart, like it's crazy the things that you thought were so huge, and then like now you don't even think about those people anymore. Right. But yeah, I let myself get into drinking to the point of blacking out, only to escape from those things. And it's a constant battle because everyone who knows me knows that I get pretty fucked up. Yeah. And I haven't been going to therapy like I used to. I used to meditate, I used to do all those things, but I have like a constant battle with myself, and I want to get back to who I was. So I will say that. But I think a lot of people, they look at me, they just think absolute fuck boy, like he just does all this wild stuff. I mean, there's a motivation, there's a reason for it, and it is because I'm still working through those past traumas that, like I said, to myself, I never thought were a big deal. Like I said, once you start to get into relationships with women or even your friendships, like you'll start to see your narcissistic tendencies. You'll start to see like in a relationship where you just really don't care about the woman and you'll kind of just put them through these crazy things. Like, yeah, I've definitely been there, and it's an uphill battle right now, but I'm trying to get to the J-Boo point, but I'm not there yet. I got a ways to go.
I think I heard something the other day, but it stuck out to me because to all these like negative emotions that we feel from heartbreak, we chase dopamine. And it's like we're always constantly chasing these small pleasures, like going to the gym releases dopamine, but you're never going to have a consistent state of just unlimited dopamine releases as a chemical in your brain. And we always chase these little tiny dopamine releases when in reality, it's not about chasing dopamine because you're going to always be chasing it. Dopamine is an addictive chemical release. You're always going to want more. You get a dopamine release from whatever it is that you use to cope, you're going to want it again. You're going to want more of it, but it's about changing your perspective and just wanting to be whole and understanding who you are and understanding your emotions. That's a change that I've looked at because I was chasing dopamine releases, like the satisfaction of a girl DMing me because I went to the gym for years straight. I was like, I'm going to make, the girl that broke my heart pay for this, but it's going to be at the expense of other people. And all these, people reaching out to me, it's going to release this dopamine, but it's just more and more constant, all these different, I guess, just releases. I realized recently that it's an addictive chemical release that can't be sustainable over time. So it's about actually just finding a level state of being whole, being content with just who you are, and then proceeding in life that way.
Because what's messed up, y'all? I feel like you never know your mental's off until it's like hindsight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you don't know why you're doing something until later you go, oh shoot. So that's why I was acting like that. That's why I was doing her dirty. That's why I was watching 13 hours of hentai a day. And it's just like, then you're like, what do you do? You just gotta have to become a better person from there. But sometimes you can't get the time back,
Right.
Yeah, like you said, and like Jalen said, it's the dopamine. That's why social media is so huge. Like you want that constant external validation. That's why you're trying to get likes on Instagram. That's why I know I've talked to Casey about this. He turned his likes off for that reason. It's just like it's that thing that you're constantly, you want that rush. That's why people watch porn. That's why people will go out and get super drunk. Like all these different things. Like you said, all it is at the end of the day, it's no different than going to get high off weed, going to do all these other addictive drugs. Dopamine is the exact same thing because it's nothing but a chemical in your brain, which is what I should be trying to say to y'all.
It's facts though.
Yeah.
I mean, to that whole social media point, it's crazy because like in my own personal life, having been I graduated college. I went to Miami, Ohio, was living I want to say regular life where I was
love and honor, baby.
World. Yeah. Right. Living a corporate life, doing my sales routines, doing all these things. And then, I was fortunate enough to go on to a reality TV show and I've had some success on social media since, but it's been a complete 180 in the way I've viewed life. And for a while there, it got to me. I mean, I saw myself chasing external validation to replace the need for my own internal acceptance of self and the idea of self-love. I was replacing that to make myself feel whole by the amount of likes I got. If I had anxiety to post something because I didn't think someone else was going to like it, or, I was on this TV show. I'm like, I wonder how people are viewing me, how they're thinking of me. And it changed a lot of my perspective in life to a point where you guys are absolutely right. That social media piece, it's a beast. And it's a very unhealthy platform for the majority of the world in this toxic environment that we create on it. So I've since been able to view it differently, but there was a good long time, man, where I would sit there and count the likes I had. And if I didn't get a number of likes within like the first hour, I would delete it. I'd be like, nah, I can't do this. This isn't good. Or
this is embarrassing.
Yeah, this is not up to my standards. So I'm gonna delete this versus having the approach where it's like, dog, I don't give a fuck. This is my life. I'm going to post whatever I want. I'm just going to be authentically Jalen. But it was a long time, man, where I literally lived off of people's validation to make myself feel whole because I couldn't do it for myself. I wouldn't.
And it's because the thing is, everyone's posting their wins all the time.
Yes,
everyone's on a
John
vacation.
had that whole conversation.
Yeah, everyone's on vacation. Everyone's in Aruba. Like everyone's doing these wild things every weekend. And you're not getting down to the realness of what a human being goes through, which is the ups and downs. And that's a scary thing. Because like you said, we're constantly seeking that dopamine, but all we're seeing is everyone else's W's. And it's like, oh, well, why is this person doing it? Why are they at this certain point in their life? And I'm stuck over here. I see it with relationships all the time. Like people are like, oh, they're in a relationship. I'm not in a relationship. I must be behind in life. And I hate that thought about it. It's like, oh, you're almost 30. Why aren't you settled down with a family? That's not necessarily my goal right now,
none of your business.
Or what I'm focused on. And I hate that we put that timeline on people's lives because everybody's journey is different. And that's the thing that we're all constantly comparing our journey to someone else's. And that's what ends up taking away from your own journey.
No, my bad. You hit the nail on the head though. You only put your wins out there. I mean, like think about the 13 to 18-year-old kids that have social media that may follow these people that only post their wins. Imagine the way they view life and how they think success is defined, how they think you have to live. And it's always on this high. And it's like you're training the mass public and you're training the average person that they have to achieve these certain things because you have it. We live in a competitive ass world. You're always comparing yourself to somebody else. And if you are part of the problem, which I call it a problem, that you're only posting your wins, you're only posting these consistently unattainable ways to live life, you're poisoning the youth. You're poisoning your followers to think that you live this consistent life. And that, again, because we're competitive by nature and comparable by nature, we're going to sit there and try to compare ourselves to that person. Well, they're on vacation. That sounds dope. They're always doing something dope. I mean, I'm in a shitty place right now. Why does my life suck? You're comparing yourself. And I think it's just a toxic ass world to be in that situation. But you're right. The more authentic that I see social media users be and being real and talking about their struggles, being on their highs, the entire roller coaster, those are the people I want to follow. Those are the people I think that need the spotlight.
Do you guys sometimes if whether this be back in the day, currently, or just a time in your life, whatever, have you ever compared yourself to other men in the room when it came to women that were around? Because I know that for me, like, bro, like I wasn't someone that developed early, you know what I'm saying? Like I had like really bad acne to the point where like I had some of my friends that could be cruel themselves about it. My parents would blame me, like, this is your fault. You're not doing what you need to be doing, but it's like, this is puberty, bro. This is what I got to go through. That trauma hasn't left my mind yet. And some girls will come up to me saying like, you're this, you're that, but it's like, I don't believe them. And it's like, I've lost girls to other dudes before, then those same girls will come running back because they knew that the nigga that they just fucked with ain't shit. Sorry, Casey.
He said you got one. He said you got one. You got one.
And then you said it again.
Yeah. But I know I've come in my life. I had a homie, one of my homies, Matt Johnson, called me out and said, bro, why do you always look at everything like a competition? And I said, like, yo, life is a competition. That's how I really thought. But I kind of feel like sometimes the people around you can make you think that you're in competition. Like John's one of my best friends. Casey's like a big brother to me. Josh is like one of my best friends as well too. Anytime I hear anything of those guys doing well, I'm happy for them. Like, I feel like if we're moving as one, then you getting a raise, we all got the raise. You know what I'm saying? Now, you might not share the raise, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we should all be happy for each other's accomplishments. I don't, if anything, each one of y'all are driving me to become better than what I was yesterday or the day before. Like I've told Casey this a lot of times, like I, in a sense, I look up to him in a sense, because it's like, I've seen what he's done in life and how he's maneuvered in life, and he's doing really well for himself. He may not tell me everything, but when it comes to just the way he carries himself, I look up to that. Yeah. So it's like, for me, I've definitely had those issues where it's like, man, shorty don't like me. I have these amount of pimples on my face, or shorty doesn't like me. I'm not 6'3". You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I've had those issues since like maybe junior high, bro. They haven't left me, but you know, I just had one of the realest talks with my homie Devin Smith, and he always said, yo, I believe in Brendan the person, not Brendan like the person that works a corporate job or like whatever the case may be. You know, people fuck with you, bro. Like, you need to like realize that in this time that we're living in. And it's sometimes like, me and you talk about this a lot. Like, we always want what we can't have. So the person that's not giving me no play, or the person that's not giving me attention, I'm striving to go and get that. And I feel like sometimes I've definitely lost sight of like what's really important for monetary gain or for clout. I've definitely been under that spell before. And also, I've been through the situation with heartbreak. I'm going through it right now, where like I gotta like realize like, yo, this person made their choice. But because they made their choice, you don't need to react in a way where it gives them the power that like they got over on you, or they made the best decision because you're wilding out. But like, if you're not in that situation and you don't have to go through that, you should be thanking your lucky stars that you don't have to go through that, because that type of pain is unbearable. And I feel for anybody that felt like they had their person, or they were in love with their person, and they just took the rug from under them. So, you know, I'm still battling that myself with comparing myself to other people, trying to figure out like who I am in a sense as well too. But I just think that we all need to like take a step back and realize like, bro, before I really, and even me too, bro, because I know I do this a lot. I speak before thinking sometimes, and I speak without knowing the true context of the situation. I just want to say like, it takes a lot for us to show empathy, show compassion for others, because I just want to know like, if that situation was me, who's going to be there for me? Who's going to ride there with me? Who's going to like get me out that hole? And I think that's really important, that we all just like make sure that the ones that are around us, people that we don't even know, like we just got to like give them a break in a sense. So that's just kind of how I feel.
It's something you said. I think we go through in a different way to celebrities. You essentially went through the same thing Michael B went through, as far as his friends were stealing from him. Your friends, like, trust me, we all clown each other. I'm like, you know me, I'm the biggest clown there is.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say when your friends are consistently doing it, and you notice like when you do something, like if you tell someone something and they don't get hyped for you, that's a sign. Like, y'all know me. I had to go to South Dakota, bro. Like I was getting clowned left and right. I mean, but at the same point in time, I came up because of work and then was able to come back to Columbus. But I mean, I paid attention to the people that clowned or the people that was just trying to like, oh yeah, like you get into the bag, but you live in South Dakota, or like they had said they'll come up and then never come up and be ghosts, like when stuff like that. Like I keep a mental note of it. And I'm back in Columbus. I've distanced myself from the people. Like I have a lot of friends, but I don't have a lot of homies or like, you know what I'm saying, people that I go to in my circle, because you have to realize that. And I think you're getting to the point that you're starting to realize, like, you know what I'm saying? Like at some point in time, all of us are going to, we're going to keep going up in our careers and having success and our future endeavors. But at the same point in time, you just got to remember who was there when you did tell certain things to, and they did celebrate your dubs. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, I ain't gonna break off my check with y'all, but am I gonna get around at town hall or something? You feel me? Like,
for sure, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Like
I'm a little bottles here and there.
I think the piece that I pulled out of that was what Devin said with I fuck with B as the person. And I think that's something that I've been a victim to too. I identified myself of having a successful career straight out of college, working for a Fortune 500 company, got fired. Like, and then that all goes away. That all goes away. I'm no longer Jonathan Morris. Like, you know, when you can go up to someone out in public and meet them, they ask you what you do. That's something that probably the top three questions.
So proud of.
Yeah, top three questions someone's gonna ask you. And I know I was making great money. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, proud to say my job. Fired. A week after moving to Florida, I got fired. I was like, what now? Like this is insane. Like, thankfully I had people in my life that were able to look out for me, pull strings, had a job literally later that day just to like hold me over. And it was a good job. Yeah. And it's like, I kind of am mad at myself that I let myself fall into like a depression because of getting fired, because I identified myself, like not Jonathan Morris. It was Jonathan who works in corporate America and makes good money. I let that identify me. And I think that happens a lot. We all have our identifiers. It's your job or your hobby, whatever it is that you do. And that kind of disconnects you from who you are as a person, whether you're broke as hell, living by yourself, or you're up. Like, it's hard to maintain that same person, I feel like. And that's what I definitely felt victim to it.
Yeah, no, I would say it's kind of effed up for real. Like, the only time I say I knew I needed to check my mental is when, and especially like talking about like how like your friends feel about things, all that kind of stuff. There were girls that I would or wouldn't talk to based on whether or not I thought my homies would think they were cute, or like when my homies have a good time around them. Things like that.
Crazy.
You know, isn't that crazy?
I mean, I feel you. I feel you on the point though. If your homies got fun around them, because like they're a part of you at that point. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but he don't even mean have fun. He just means
literally
they think she looks good.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, yo, would Brendan want to have sex with my girl? Would Bay stick my girl back? You know what I mean? Like, how? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not good. You know what I mean?
No, hell
no.
If I'm with a girl and I'm like, yo, but I mean, Jalen, you want to smack her ass, bro? I mean, would you? Don't. I'm gonna feel.
That'll let me know I'm doing okay.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's what I was down about.
I hit that line like, at least my boy happy. You feel me? That's, you know what I'm saying? Like, you happy.
Yeah, but you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that.
But I mean, I got to the point. I say that with everybody. Like, I'm like, hey, at least my boy happy. Like, you know what I'm saying? I got into that's just my common thing. Granted, I mean, no, I don't want my boys to, you know what I'm saying, look at my chick and you over here mentally undressing her. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
what's wrong with you, Nick?
I'm cool.
Base, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. If I ever ask you my girl cute and you look at me and go, "Are you happy?" I'm gonna feel away, man. I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna feel away, man. I ain't gonna hold you, but nah, man. Yeah, so I think like mental health is key. That's why I'm so happy that Jalen, you inspired this conversation, bro. I appreciate you, because it's always, especially in like today's like political climate, there's all types of stuff going on. We could have talked about anything today, but it took someone like you to come in here and be like, no, brothers, we must talk about mental health today because it's important. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and of course, man. Definitely something I always want to talk about. And hearing everyone's thoughts, it like hits home because I've been in that situation multiple times where I compare myself when I walk into somebody in a room based off my own insecurities, which ties back to my mental health, whether it be thinking the girl I'm pursuing would be cute enough for my friends to approve based off my own insecurities, all these things that tie back to just the lack of self-love that I had for myself. But I guess, speaking of, while we're here today, just talking about these things and being open about it, and John sharing that, he went through a deep place when he got let go, and, having close friends around him that actually wanted to see him succeed, because not everyone's fortunate enough to have those type of circles and those type of people around them. And I hope by today's conversations and what we're able to talk about, we can shed light to people who may be in a tough situation where they don't have that close group of friends, who may be dealing with, people who aren't there for them at the end of the day, or who are questioning that, or who are questioning themselves, and realize that, hey, what these guys are saying, I feel this, I've been through this, and maybe it's time for me to really take a step back and view who I keep around me, the company I keep, the way I view myself, and hopefully take actionable steps to work on themselves and address these things, because it's not a healthy way to live life when you don't have a lot of these things we're talking about, or at least view life in certain ways. And, again, I hope by just some of these points we're making, and why I wanted to talk today was just, again, to spread awareness for Black men and men specific to pursue these things.
Hell yeah, brother. We appreciate it, man. We really do.